Let's stop pretending, lounging in our armchairs, that the 2026 MotoGP season is simply shaping up as another thrilling championship contest. No, what is unfolding on these circuits at this very moment is a precise, clinical takedown of a rider once considered invincible. Marc Marquez, the seven-time world champion and the most ferocious competitor this sport has ever witnessed, now trails by 44 points behind a young rider from Rimini whom many had previously labeled as gifted yet unreliable. You're looking for blood? The blood has already been spilled across the asphalt. Danilo Petrucci, a man who competed in MotoGP long enough to carry every scar this paddock etches into your body and soul, observed Marco Bezzecchi methodically securing victories in Thailand, Brazil, and the Americas in successive rounds. And when he chose his words, he did so with the precision of a soldier preparing a loaded firearm, cautious, intentional, almost afraid of jinxing something almost holy. "I'm not saying anything for fear of jinxing it," the Ducati man from Italy told GPON, yet he went ahead and revealed everything anyway. He voiced what every Italian in that paddock is murmuring behind closed doors. Marco Bezzecchi has matured and the entire sport is unprepared for the implications of that growth. The anatomy of a monster. Marquez concluded the 2025 season on the sidelines after undergoing surgery for a coracoid fracture and ligament damage in his right shoulder, an injury sustained in October when he was taken out by Bezzecchi himself during the Indonesian Grand Prix. Read that again. The rider who placed Marquez on the operating table now stands 44 points ahead of him in the 2026 championship standings. If this were scripted as fiction, publishers would dismiss it as overly theatrical. But this is MotoGP. This sport never does subtle. This sport delivers vengeance at 340 kilometers per hour. Bezzecchi has emerged as the first rider since Marquez back in 2014 to claim victory in the opening three Grands Prix of a season, while also establishing a new MotoGP record for consecutive laps led at 121. That streak traces back to the final two races of 2025 in Portugal and Valencia. 121 consecutive laps led. Let that figure settle deep inside you. That is not mere dominance. That is occupation. That is a rider planting his flag deep in hostile territory and challenging anyone to try and reclaim it. Meanwhile, Marquez had not yet reached a podium across the first three rounds, his strongest result being a fourth-place finish in Brazil, where he even ran wide and handed the position over to Fabio Di Giannantonio. The injury has clearly restricted Marquez this season. It is obvious that his shoulder remains compromised, as he has appeared visibly uncomfortable. On top of that, Ducati understands that the GP26 is not the strongest machine on the 2026 grid. The king is injured, the realm is fracturing, and the wolves have caught the scent. Petrucci's testimony, the perspective of a warrior who understands battle. This is where Petrucci's viewpoint transcends a simple quote from a talking head. Danilo Petrucci has lived through this very same story. He knows the sensation of racing in MotoGP beneath the crushing expectations of an entire nation, of reaching a peak, of battling and bleeding, only to ultimately come up short of immortality. He has stood inside those garages. He has felt the pressure tightening around your chest when a genuine title fight intensifies. So when he examines Bezzecchi and speaks of maturity, recognize that this word carries the entire gravity of hard-earned experience. I'm really pleased with the maturity he's shown, and above all that last season's finish wasn't just a flash in the pan because this year he's come back probably even stronger. Petrucci is not merely offering praise to a rider. He's confirming a profound transformation. The earlier version of Bezzecchi, the one from 2022 and 2023, possessed the raw talent but shed points like a leaking fuel tank. Third in the championship in 2023. Third again in 2025, always the runner-up, always the name paired with the words one day. Well, one day has arrived, and Petrucci recognizes it. He is supporting it. He is almost hesitant to speak too loudly about it. It is going to be a long battle, of course, because there are more than 40 races ahead and you cannot afford any errors. You have to focus on staying upright and consistently collecting point after point. That statement is not a casual prediction. It is a cautionary alert delivered by a man who has witnessed far too many championships dissolve in the latter half of a season to allow any premature celebrations at the midpoint. Petrucci has watched Marquez achieve feats that defy physical logic. He has seen the number 93 rise from the ashes more times than should be humanly possible. The respect runs deep, the fear is genuine, and Bezzecchi would be wise to internalize every single word. A wounded beast remains the most perilous one. Silvano Galbusera has voiced worries about whether Bezzecchi can manage the mental demands of a full title battle as effectively as Marquez, anticipating that the pressure will intensify as the season progresses. Dani Pedrosa, for his part, foresees a psychological battle unfolding between the pair. And this is precisely the moment when your pulse should quicken, because we have moved beyond raw speed. We are now witnessing psychological warfare at the absolute pinnacle of motorsport. Marquez has fought these wars before. He knows precisely how to choke the life out of a championship leader from 40 points behind. He has achieved it repeatedly against various opponents. Alex Marquez delivered perhaps the most ominous warning of all. Marc is one of those riders who, even if he's 100 points ahead, you can't underestimate. In a single weekend, you have 37 points up for grabs. Last year, I was close to him. He strung together 7 consecutive sprint race victories. And what do? I checked. I was 20 points behind, and when I checked again, he was 120. That quote deserves to be fixed inside Bezzecchi's helmet visor, because it is not simply brotherly support speaking. It is the observation of someone who has witnessed his own sibling transform into an unstoppable phenomenon, and who understands that the scoreboard holds no meaning for Marc Marquez until the very last lap of the final round. With 17 rounds still remaining and 37 points on offer every single weekend, the mathematics continue to be merciless. At the Spanish Grand Prix in Jerez, Bezzecchi's record-breaking streak finally came to an end when Alex Marquez claimed victory, while Marc Marquez himself crashed out from second place on only lap 2. Yet even in that crash, Marquez managed to hold on to 5th in the championship thanks to his sprint race win. The man pulls points out of turmoil like a magician extracting blades from thin air. That is not luck, that is championship DNA. The deeper wound? What began in Indonesia? Let us return once more to October 2025 because the narrative that has defined 2026 originated there. Marquez needed surgery after being collected by Bezzecchi in the Indonesian Grand Prix, resulting in that coracoid fracture and ligament damage in his right shoulder. That incident, whether intentional or accidental, the debate raged fiercely and nearly divided the paddock, triggered a sequence of events that now shapes the entire season. Marquez went under the knife. Bezzecchi entered the winter burdened by both guilt and the resolve of a man who realized he had provoked the most dangerous rival in contemporary motorsport. After the Austin weekend, Marquez himself confronted the situation with stark honesty. We have to be honest, it's the third race, there's a long way to go, but there's a rider in extraordinary form, Bezzecchi. That public admission from Marquez, openly nomming his rival as the favorite on the record, stands as the most remarkable development in this championship thus far. Not Bezzecchi's 121 laps led, not Aprilia's triple win at the start. The instant a 7-time world champion reviewed the standings and spoke the unvarnished truth, that reveals the true scale of what is happening. What Petrucci truly perceives, remove the guarded phrasing, remove the superstition about jinxes. What Petrucci observes when he watches Bezzecchi compete in 2026 is this: a rider who no longer falters or panics when pressure mounts. Even in Jerez, where his winning run ended, his second-place result still widened his championship advantage. He gathered the points, maintained composure, and departed with the gap preserved. That is the riding of a champion. That is the behavioral evolution every Italian in the paddock has waited 10 years to witness from one of their own. The standings after 4 rounds paint the picture in unforgiving figures. Bezzecchi leads with 101 points, Martin sits second on 90, Di Giannantonio third on 71, Acosta fourth on 66, and Marquez fifth on just 57. The reigning world champion is fifth, not third, not second, fifth. If that fact does not raise the hairs on the back of your neck, then you are following an entirely different sport. This is not a relaxed title contest. This is a grinding war of endurance between an ascending talent who may have finally achieved completeness and a battered legend who has never once embraced the identity of the defeated. Petrucci supports Bezzecchi because Bezzecchi represents the dream, the Italian youngster, the underdog who suffered through Moto3 and Moto2, who endured his hardships in the premier class, and who now stands on the threshold of something eternal. But Marquez is the nightmare that refuses to die. Damaged shoulder, inferior machinery, 44 points behind, 17 rounds left. And there is not a single person on this planet who has followed his career and genuinely believes the story is finished. The throne in 2026 is drenched in blood. The only remaining question is whose blood will crown the season. Bezzecchi currently holds the blade, but Marquez knows exactly where the jugular lies. Stay seated. This war has only just begun.